It was just another night in my quiet little suburban life, the kind of night where the world feels like it's holding its breath. The clock on the kitchen wall ticked past 11, and the house was wrapped in that heavy, familiar silence. My husband, Tom, was already snoring upstairs, his steady rhythm a reminder of the predictable life we'd built over 20 years. I was 52, comfortable in my routine, but lately there was this restless itch under my skin, like I was waiting for something to happen. Something to break the monotony. I didn't know it then, but that night something would. I was in the kitchen, sipping chamomile tea, trying to unwind. The kids were long gone, off to college, and the house felt too big for just the two of us. My reflection in the dark window caught my eye, still fit, still pretty, but there were lines around my eyes that hadn't been there a decade ago. I sighed, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear, and that's when I heard it. A soft creak from the backyard. My heart gave a little jolt, but I told myself it was nothing. Probably the wind. Still, I set my mug down and tiptoed to the back door, peering through the glass. The yard was empty, bathed in moonlight, but the shadows seemed to shift, like they were hiding something. I shook my head, laughing at myself. Too many late-night crime podcasts, I thought. But as I turned away, I caught a glimpse of movement next door. The neighbor's house where Ethan lived. Ethan, the 48-year-old widower who'd moved in 6 months ago. He was different. Quiet, but not in a shy way. More like he was always watching, always aware. He caught my eye more than once, those sharp green eyes, that easy smile. I'd never admit it, but I'd noticed the way his shirts clung to his shoulders when he mowed the lawn. There was something about him that felt dangerous, but not in a way that scared me. In a way that made my pulse quicken. I told myself I was being ridiculous. I was married, for God's sake. Happily, mostly. But as I stood there staring at his house, I saw a light flick on in his kitchen. And then there he was. Ethan, standing at his window, looking right at me. My breath caught. He didn't wave, didn't smile, just held my gaze, his expression unreadable. For a moment, it felt like the world narrowed to just us, two silhouettes in the dark, connected by something I couldn't name. Then he turned away, and the light went out. I exhaled, my cheeks warm. What was wrong with me? I grabbed my tea, now cold, and headed upstairs. But that restless feeling was stronger now, buzzing in my veins. I needed to shake it off. A shower, I decided. That would clear my head. The bathroom was my sanctuary, with its soft lighting and lavender-scented candles. I turned on the water, letting the steam fill the room, and stripped down, stepping under the spray. The heat melted the tension in my shoulders, and for a moment I felt normal again. Just a woman in her bathroom, washing away the day. I didn't lock the door. Why would I? Tom was asleep and we were alone in the house. It was a habit, a small act of trust in the safety of our home. But as I stood there, eyes closed, water cascading over me, I heard it again. That creak. My eyes snapped open, heart pounding. The bathroom door was ajar, just a crack, letting in a sliver of light from the hallway. Had I left it like that? I froze, listening, but all I could hear was the rush of water and my own uneven breathing. Tom? I called softly, my voice trembling. No answer. I reached for the shower curtain, pulling it back just enough to peek out. The bathroom was empty, but that sliver of light felt wrong, like it was mocking me. I stepped out, wrapping a towel around myself, and tiptoed to the door. My hand hovered over the knob, but before I could close it, I saw him. Ethan. Standing in my hallway, just outside the bathroom, his silhouette tall and unmistakable. I gasped, clutching the towel tighter. What are you doing here? I whispered, my voice a mix of fear and something else, something I didn't want to name. He didn't move closer, but his eyes locked onto mine, intense, almost hungry. I saw your light on, he said, his voice low, like velvet. I heard something in your yard. I wanted to make sure you were okay. My mind raced. How had he gotten in? The back door, I must have left it unlocked when I checked the yard. But why was he here in my house at midnight? My throat felt dry, but I couldn't look away from him. He was closer now, close enough that I could smell the faint cedar of his cologne. You shouldn't be here, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. I know, he murmured, taking a step forward. The space between us felt electric, charged with something forbidden. But you didn't lock the door, Sarah. My name on his lips sent a shiver down my spine. I should have screamed, should have pushed him away, but I didn't. I stood there frozen as his hand reached out, brushing a damp strand of hair from my face. His touch was light, but it burned, igniting something deep inside me. I can't, I whispered, but my body betrayed me, leaning into his touch. His eyes darkened, and for a moment, I thought he'd kiss me. I wanted him to. God help me, I wanted it. But then he stepped back, his jaw tight, like he was fighting himself. "This is dangerous," he said, his voice rough. "You know it is." I nodded, my heart hammering. "Then why are you here?" I asked, my voice barely audible. He didn't answer, just looked at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing down the stairs. I heard the back door click shut, and he was gone. I sank to the floor, my towel still clutched tight, my mind a whirlwind. What had just happened? I'd let a man, a stranger, practically, into my home, into my space, and I hadn't stopped him. Worse, I hadn't wanted to. The weight of it crashed over me, guilt and exhilaration tangled together. What if Tom had woken up? What if someone had seen? I pressed my hands to my face, trying to steady my breathing. But one thought kept circling back, sharp and insistent. I hadn't locked the door. And deep down, in a place I didn't want to admit existed, I wondered if I'd left it open on purpose. The next morning, I woke up with a start, my heart racing like I'd been running from something in my dreams. The sunlight streamed through the bedroom curtains, painting the room in soft gold, but it did nothing to chase away the shadow of last night. Ethan. His touch. The way his voice had wrapped around my name like a secret. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, Tom's steady breathing beside me, a stark reminder of the life I was supposed to be living. A life that felt like it was slipping through my fingers. I slid out of bed, careful not to wake Tom, and padded downstairs. The kitchen was exactly as I'd left it, my chamomile tea still sitting on the counter, cold and forgotten. But the back door. I checked it, my fingers trembling as I turned the knob. Locked. Had I locked it after Ethan left? Or had he? The uncertainty gnawed at me, a splinter I couldn't pull out. I made coffee, trying to ground myself in the routine, but every sip tasted bitter like guilt. All day I was a mess. I burned the toast, forgot to start the laundry, and when Tom kissed me goodbye before heading to his golf game, I flinched. He didn't notice, thank God, but I did. I noticed everything, the way my skin prickled when I passed the bathroom, the way my eyes kept darting to the window, searching for a glimpse of Ethan's house. I told myself to stop. To forget it. It was a moment, a mistake, nothing more. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. It was a crack in the foundation of my life, and I could feel it spreading. By late afternoon, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed air, needed to move, to shake off the weight of it all. I grabbed my gardening gloves and headed to the backyard, kneeling in the dirt to pull weeds. The physical work felt good, grounding, but it didn't stop my mind from wandering. I kept replaying last night, the way Ethan's eyes had held mine, the heat of his hand against my skin. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. It was like he'd unlocked something inside me, something I'd buried years ago. I was so lost in thought that I didn't hear him approach. "Sarah," he said, and I nearly dropped the trowel. I looked up, and there he was, standing at the fence that separated our yards. Ethan in a faded black t-shirt and jeans, his hair slightly mussed from the breeze. He looked normal. Not like the man who'd stood in my hallway at midnight, setting my world on fire. But his eyes, they were the same. Intense, searching, like he could see right through me. "Ethan," I said, my voice too sharp. I stood, brushing dirt off my knees, suddenly hyper-aware of my old tank top and messy ponytail. "What do you want?" It came out harsher than I meant, but I was scared. Scared of him, scared of myself, scared of what might happen if I let him too close again. He didn't flinch. "I owe you an apology," he said, his voice low, steady. "For last night. I shouldn't have come in like that. It was out of line." His words were careful, but there was something in his tone, a flicker of something that told me he wasn't as sorry as he claimed. I crossed my arms, trying to build a wall between us. "You're right. It was. So why are you here now?" My heart was pounding, but I held his gaze, refusing to look away. I needed to be strong to shut this down before it went any further. He stepped closer to the fence, close enough that I could see the faint stubble on his jaw. "Because I can't stop thinking about you," he said, and the words hit me like a punch. "I tried, Sarah. I swear I did. But last night, it wasn't just a mistake. You felt it too. I know you did." I opened my mouth to deny it, to tell him he was wrong, but the words wouldn't come. Because he wasn't wrong. I had felt it, the pull, the heat. The reckless thrill of it. And standing there, with only a flimsy wooden fence between us, I felt it again. Stronger this time, like a current dragging me under. "Ethan, I'm married," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "This can't happen. You need to leave me alone." But even as I said it, my body was screaming something else, my eyes lingering on the curve of his lips, the way his hands gripped the fence like he was holding himself back. "I know," he said, his voice rough. "But tell me you don't feel it. Tell me you want me to walk away, and I will." He leaned forward, his eyes locked on mine, and for a moment, the world fell away. No Tom, no marriage, no consequences. Just us and the dangerous, intoxicating space between. I should have said it. I should have told him to go. But instead I stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. I admitted, my voice breaking. I don't know what this is, but I can't stop it either. His expression softened, but there was a hunger in it too, a spark that made my stomach twist. Then don't, he said, and before I could think he reached over the fence, his hand brushing mine. It was a small touch, but it sent a jolt through me, reigniting that fire from last night. I didn't pull away. I let his fingers linger, let the moment stretch, heavy with possibility. And then I heard it, the crunch of tires on the driveway. Tom was home. Panic surged through me, and I yanked my hand back, my breath coming in short gasps. Ethan's eyes flicked toward the house, then back to me, a silent question in them. Go, I whispered, my voice urgent. Please. He nodded, stepping back, but not before his gaze lingered on me, a promise of something unfinished. He disappeared into his yard, and I turned, hurrying to the back door, my heart hammering. Tom was already inside, calling my name, his voice cheerful, oblivious. Sarah? You out there? Coming. I called, forcing a smile as I stepped into the kitchen. But my hands were shaking and my mind was racing. What was I doing? I'd come so close to crossing a line I couldn't uncross. And yet, even as guilt clawed at me, I couldn't stop thinking about Ethan's touch, his words, the way he'd looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered. That night, as Tom slept beside me, I lay awake, staring into the dark. The house was quiet, but my mind was a storm. I kept seeing Ethan's face, hearing his voice, feeling the weight of what we'd almost done. And then a new fear gripped me. Tom's golf buddy, Mark, lived across the street. His bedroom window faced Ethan's house. Had he seen us in the backyard? Had he noticed Ethan's hand on mine, the way we'd stood too close? The thought made my stomach churn. If Mark suspected anything, if he said a word to Tom. I pressed my hands to my face, trying to silence the panic. I had to stop this. I had to stay away from Ethan to protect my marriage, my life. But even as I made that vow, a part of me, a reckless, desperate part, wondered what would happen if I saw him again. If I left the door unlocked one more time. Sleep didn't come that night. I lay there tangled in the sheets, Tom snores a steady drumbeat against the chaos in my head. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside, made me flinch, half expecting Ethan to appear again, his shadow slipping through my life like a thief. But it wasn't just fear keeping me awake, it was want. That gnawing, shameful hunger that had taken root the moment he touched me. I hated myself for it, but it was there, pulsing under my skin, whispering his name. Ethan. 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 By morning I was a wreck. My eyes were puffy, my nerves frayed, and when Tom kissed my cheek before heading to work, I could barely muster a smile. You okay, hon? He asked, his brow furrowing. I nodded, muttering something about a bad night's sleep, but his concern lingered in the air, a warning I couldn't ignore. He was my husband, my partner of 2 decades, and here I was, teetering on the edge of betrayal. I had to end this, whatever this was, before it destroyed everything. I spent the day cleaning, scrubbing the kitchen counters until my hands were raw, as if I could scrub away the guilt. But every time I passed a window, my eyes darted to Ethan's house, searching for him. I didn't see him, but the absence only made it worse, like he was haunting me without even trying. By noon, I was pacing, my resolve crumbling. I needed to confront him, to tell him it was over, that we couldn't keep playing this dangerous game. It was the only way to take back control. So I did something reckless. I wrote a note, short, sharp, final. We need to talk. 3 p.m. My backyard. I slipped it into his mailbox, my heart pounding as I glanced around, praying no one saw. Mark's house loomed across the street, its windows like eyes, and I hurried back inside, my breath shallow. 3 o'clock couldn't come fast enough. When the time came, I stepped into the backyard, my stomach in knots. The air was warm, the sun high, but I felt cold, exposed. I stood by the fence, arms crossed, trying to look composed, but inside, I was unraveling. And then he was there, stepping out from his back door, his expression unreadable. He wore a dark button-down, sleeves rolled up, and the sight of him, calm, confident, like he owned the moment, made my resolve waver. Sarah, he said, his voice soft but heavy with meaning. He stopped at the fence, close enough that I could see the faint scar above his eyebrow, a detail I hadn't noticed before. It made him real, human, and somehow that made this harder. We can't do this, I blurted, my voice sharper than I intended. Whatever this is, it's wrong. I'm married, Ethan. I have a life, a family. You need to stay away from me." The words spilled out desperate, but even as I said them, I felt the lie in them. I didn't want him to stay away. Not really. He didn't respond right away. He just looked at me, his green eyes piercing, like he could see the war raging inside me. "Is that what you really want?" he asked finally, his voice low, almost a challenge. "Because I don't think it is. I think you're scared, Sarah. Scared of what you feel. Scared of what happens if you let yourself want this." His words hit too close, slicing through my defenses. "You don't know me," I snapped, but my voice trembled. "You don't get to decide what I want." "Then tell me," he said, stepping closer, the fence no longer a barrier but a flimsy excuse. "Tell me you don't think about me. Tell me you didn't leave that note because you needed to see me." His voice was velvet, wrapping around me, pulling me in. I should have walked away, should have run, but my feet were rooted, my body betraying me again. I started, but the words died in my throat. Because he was right. I had needed to see him. Not to end it, but to feel that rush again, that reckless, forbidden thrill. And he knew it. He reached over the fence, his hand grazing my arm, and the touch was like a spark, igniting everything I tried to suppress. I didn't pull away. I leaned into it, my breath hitching, and for a moment we were back in that hallway, the world narrowing to just us. But then I heard it, a cough, sharp and deliberate, from the direction of Mark's house. My head snapped up, and there he was, Mark, standing on his porch, a coffee mug in hand, watching us. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes were locked on us, and panic surged through me like ice water. I yanked my arm back, my face burning. "Go," I hissed at Ethan, my voice barely audible. "Now." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He gave me one last look, part promise, part warning, and slipped back into his yard. I turned, hurrying inside, my heart pounding so loud I thought it might burst. Mark had seen us. Mark, who played golf with Tom, who'd known us for years. What had he seen? Enough to suspect? Enough to tell? I spent the rest of the day in a haze, jumping at every sound, expecting Tom to come home and confront me. When he finally did, he was his usual self, cheerful, oblivious, talking about his day at the office. But I couldn't relax. I kept seeing Mark's face, those knowing eyes, and the weight of my secret felt heavier than ever. That night, as Tom slept, I slipped out of bed and stood at the bathroom window, staring at Ethan's house. A light was on, and for a moment, I thought I saw him, a shadow moving in the dark. My fingers brushed the window pane, and I wondered what would happen if I went to him. If I let myself fall. The next morning it happened. Tom was at the kitchen table reading the paper when his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face tightening, and my stomach dropped. "Mark texted," he said, his voice calm but edged with something I didn't recognize. "Says he saw something weird in our backyard yesterday. You know anything about that?" My mouth went dry, my heart slamming against my ribs. "Weird?" I managed, my voice too high. "Like what?" I gripped my coffee mug, praying he couldn't hear the tremor in my voice. Tom shrugged, but his eyes lingered on me, searching. "Didn't say. Just thought it was odd." He went back to his paper, but the air felt thick, charged with unspoken questions. I excused myself, fleeing to the bathroom, where I locked the door, really locked it this time, and sank to the floor. My hands shook as I pressed them to my face, tears burning my eyes. It was over. Mark had seen, and now Tom suspected. My life, my marriage, everything I'd built, it was crumbling, and I'd done it to myself. But even as the guilt consumed me, a part of me, a reckless, defiant part, still burned for Ethan. For the way he'd looked at me, the way he'd made me feel alive. I could end it now, confess everything to Tom, beg for forgiveness. Or I could keep the secret, let it fester, and hope Mark stayed quiet. Or I could go to Ethan. Cross that final line and damn the consequences. I stood, wiping my tears, and looked at myself in the mirror. The woman staring back was a stranger, wild-eyed, desperate, alive in a way I hadn't been in years. I didn't know what I'd do next. Confess and lose everything? Fight to keep my secret? Or surrender to the pull of something forbidden, something that might destroy me but felt worth it in the dark? All I knew was this. I hadn't locked the bathroom door that night. And now the door to my life was wide open with no way to close it again.